Well, of course you love the show. I mean, this is my finest work yet. We can continue doing the show for you, but of course, that will depend on the price. 200 per episode. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not going to cut it. You have to remember, this is the hottest content on the market right now. I've got the LCK, I've got the LPL, I've got Riot Games, I've got everything. Everything and everyone wants this show. You're going to need something better. Oh, you have something, do you? Okay, yeah, I'm listening. 1 million. Okay, per episode. Yeah. Exposure bucks. Okay. No. This sounds good. Yeah. No. I think we can agree on this. Yeah. Per episode. Yeah. Okay. Great. No, that's fantastic. I'll let MaskedSwan know the good news. Okay. Thanks. Bye. Yeah. What do you mean? How can we not do jokes on NA? It's our entire joke pool. Oh, the American investors don't like it. Well, what am I supposed to joke about? What are we supposed to laugh about? The Turkish and Russian leagues. Did you forget about, you know, how Unicorns of Love and Supermassive destroyed Madlions in Worlds Playing? Okay. We'll try it. But don't blame me if the audience don't like it and the audience aren't laughing at our jokes, okay? Alright, bye. Yo, MaskedSwan, I got some good news. Wait, are you on vacation? You do realize, like, there's this whole lockdown thing happening and you're not allowed outside of your homes and all of that stuff?
Look, it's a green screen. Do you have to... What do you want?
Well, we got the green light for the eLECtric recap.
Okay, well that's awesome, Milky, but there's one slight problem.
What's the issue?
Well, did you watch any of LEC last weekend?
It was last weekend? Oh, crap. Please tell me you saw it.
Don't worry, I watched all of the LCS games.
Lexi, EU rebranded from the LCS like 2 years ago. LCS is NA, not EU.
What happened to you, my boy? Oh, sorry. You're the EU's best top laner.
Good evening and welcome to the eLECtric recap, the show where we talk about everything LEC related.
I'm MaskedSwan, your resident analyst and creator of the funny jokes.
And I'm Milky Cereal, and I laugh at MaskedSwan's jokes.
No laugh? No chuckle today?
What can I say? You're just not that funny today. Moving on, today we will be covering the opening 3 days of LEC action.
By the way, Milky, I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, what is it?
Well, you know how last week you brought on a superior color caster as a guest?
Yeah.
Well, this week I thought I'd bring in a superior play-by-play caster as our guest. Everybody out there, say hello to Initialise.
Oh, you one of the best. You got the best, the hottest play-by-play caster in the world. It's me. I like to think that way, and the confidence gets me a long way in life. So, what are you going to do?
What can you do indeed? Now, guys, I know you really want to do this. Rip on me for the questionable items of clothing I was wearing during our cold open.
Milky, you've got socks on your hands.
So they're just reverse socks.
Yeah.
It's all right.
That's yeah. That would explain why my hands were warm. Okay.
Yeah, reverse gloves, but for your hands, feet.
Strange man.
Anyway, LCS, right, lads? Right?
Please don't start this again.
All right,
What have I
LEC.
been invited to? I'm feeling suddenly like the quality is sort of like not at the level I aspire to be at.
We're sorry. Don't worry. Now you know for next time. You can go and put on Twitter. Just don't join the show as a guest. These guys don't know what they're doing.
Must wear socks on hands. Call it the LCS.
Oh, well, enough of the fun and jokes. We're going to be having plenty of that throughout the remainder of the show. Let's jump right on in. Day one. This is where, we finally got an idea of how all of the teams were looking, how all of the teams were able to perform. We talked about it, for so long throughout the entire offseason. We had that first episode of the show, but this was crunch time, and we kicked off with G2 Madlions the same way we kicked off 2020. And G2, they were able to take the win.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a really weird place. G2 honestly lost the draft, in my opinion, like pretty hard. But the difference is player diff. And G2 have that in spades, and they're kind of just flexing. We saw Reckless playing Sivir. Sivir's not good at the moment. Yeah, it worked with their comp, as he said in his interview, but honestly, it's not meta pick, and you shouldn't pick it unless you're Reckless and part of G2, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll also add on, of course, that Jankos gets to play Olaf again, and that's a pick he's historically been really good at. Also, Olaf doesn't fall off anywhere near as hard, and I think G2 have got a lot better around playing around jungle priority, particularly in the mid and late games, and that looked good as well. And then, honestly, Wonder kind of top-gapped.
So I guess the story we can take from this, G2 look all right. Grabs maybe needs to improve the draft, but from the Madline side of things,
Against G2, it's hard to really find a level. They need to play more. We get a better gauge on Madlions later on into the next few days. But against G2, this game was not clean by G2 by any stretch of the imagination, but it just showed like individual player wise, they were just winning in almost every scenario, even with not playing very well.
I mean, the two scenarios that really stick out in my mind is where, of course, Madlions do eventually get the kills diving Mickey and Reckless in the bot lane. But Mickey's Alistair outplays nearly everything, and Mad have to put so many resources into killing one damn cow without the level 6 even, that it looked just ridiculous. And that kind of level of outplay, even in difficult scenarios, definitely raised my eyes. And then the other one was obviously Humanoid trying to dive Caps under that bot tier 2, and it was just a complete bait because guess who was behind him but all the rest of G2. And that kind of mix of really smart play around, okay, I know what this guy's going to do, let's try this, and the other one being, okay, we're in a bad situation, how do I try and finesse my way out of it? Yes, I shouldn't have been here in the first place possibly, but I can still look to get the most out of it that I can. Made Madlions look a bit silly because some of those plays in isolation, right, look pretty good. Caps is nearly dead. I'm Tristana. I can go dive him under the tower. This should be an easy kill. It's a massive 4 versus 2-1 dive under this bot lane tower. Should be easy as you like. It wasn't, and
It wasn't.
It'll be some frustration, I'm sure, in the VOD reviews for Madlions. But I like the ideas. They just didn't. It just wasn't executed right.
well, speaking of easy games, Astralis versus SK, the Origin rebrand to Astralis. And, well, to put it simply, they didn't look very good.
No, they didn't. I'll be honest, this felt like bot diff, support diff, fat man diff, like everything was just going the way of SK Astralis. White Knight was getting caught out a bunch of times. Promise Q wasn't really having a great time. Their jungler, whose name I'm always scared to try and say out loud, who I was hyping up from last week, from Ego Rogue. He's amazing. Okay, I'm gonna try it. Zinzar, yeah, thank you, Initialise. You're used to doing that for me, actually.
Play-by-play problems, my friend.
He power farmed really well. He was actually like the shining light on this team, and sadly, it didn't work out for him. He tried his best. His early game was actually pretty good. He power farmed, got first dragon, got some real hard pushing in, and then it kind of fell apart because the whole team had fallen far too far apart in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much more to add there. I mean, we had concerns, I guess, about this roster coming in. A lot of these guys are going, is this really an LEC quality team? We've got a lot of these EU Masters guys coming in that honestly could well compete. But there were moments here, like Zanzaro, as you said, is a good jungler, honestly. And I got some hope for him. And obviously, Astralis, we'll talk about it later, aren't winless, aren't last place. And it wasn't clean. But at least there's some things here to work with. This wasn't the game to see them, though, I don't think.
Well, SK looked positive, at least after their first game. Then our third game of the day, Rogue versus XL. And MaskedSwan, you posed the question last week when Temporal was here in that opening show that you felt that the switch to pick up, to pick up Odoamne in the top lane felt like it would be 2 steps forward, but you were wondering with Trimby, would it be a couple of steps back? And honestly, Rogue looked clean as a whistle against XL.
Yeah, it was Milky. I think that's a great point to pick up from where I said. I'd stick by. I think Odoamne is just a straight upgrade for them. And think about the kind of shoes that Trimby is trying to fill. They're huge shoes. Vander is no small player to try and fill the shoes of. And honestly, Vander on his new team of Misfits is actually maybe the best player on that team half of the time. So he's definitely putting some plays in. Trimby, however, proved why he got picked up, why he was one of these hot commodities, why he was part of that Ego Rogue lineup that everyone and their mother wanted to try and sign a player from them. They've all been signed to at least an LEC team or their academy roster in the respects of that AD carry. But this team looks so good. And this is partly of like 2 members coming into this team. Not all of Rogue are still together. This, honestly, this team is so exciting to watch. I feel bad for XL, Initialise. I do feel bad for them because, let's be real, this team had a lot of promise. They don't look too bad, but Rogue just kind of showed a lot of their flaws.
Yeah, I think part of it as well is that this Rogue roster in terms of, you look on paper and you ask, how is this team going to play? Odoamne is arguably one of the best weak side top laners the LEC or the LCS or a number of regions really have to offer. He's a very good weak side top laner. He's a very experienced weak side top laner. I know there's been discussions in the past that sometimes he enjoys taking difficult matchups and playing them well because there's some kind of weird fake sense of pride in that, perhaps. I mean, obviously, I exaggerate a little bit there, but that's the kind of guy he is. He's very good and very experienced now at playing to a side when you have got guys like Hansama and this new rookie Trimby in the bot line who are going to play aggressive, are playing, hell, Callista set. You are going to want to get lane pressure there. That means you're going to have jungle attention down there. You've got a guy like Odoamne saying, yeah, give me cannon. I'll play weak side and then I'll teleport in and murder everybody. That's fine. And, obviously Larson as well on the Lucian this game. You know where Inspired's going to want to play with his lane priority and invade down that bot side, look to get dragon control. It's holistically a really good roster, I think, because you know that you want to play around Hansama, probably Larson as well, statistically last split back in summer. Fantastic stuff coming out of Larson. And there was those discussions about quietly this guy has become one of the best, if not the best mids in the league, right? And I think it's kind of continuing a bit here. Rogue are looking great. This is a good game to watch it. Unfortunate stuff with Ivan losing in the top lane. It was a nice idea. Patrick probably overstepped a little bit, a few too many times in the late game, which didn't help out, unfortunately. But Moonstone messiness can be maybe proved to be a good thing later on. But this game, yeah, good stuff out of Rogue.
And then our game 4 of the day, and for MaskedSwan and myself, was the most exciting game. It was our game of the day because it had absolutely everything. Vitality versus Schalke, and that game, honestly, heart almost coming out there, and because commiserations for both Vitality and Schalke fans, because I don't know if they're still alive right now. Initialise, what did you make of it?
Absolutely nuts. And obviously, you guys gave me the heads up. This would be one of your game of the day for the Friday. And there's 2 more to come, of course, of these. So I went back to make sure I knew what was going on with this game. And I got the stats up. I looked at the match history. Should have been a Vitality. What? And you're looking at this goal graph. It's a beautiful, steady incline up to 6K. And then on the screen, it says defeat. And you're like, what on earth happened? You go back and watch the game. And gold lead felt somewhat irrelevant, honestly, because it was neck and neck the entire way through. Skeens gets a Baron steal after Schalke look like they've got control of it. They get loads of towers. Suddenly, on the other side, Schalke get a couple dragons back when they're down at Ocean Soul Point, and then manage to get Ocean Souls themselves. And then late game, there's that final base race when they're all around the Elder Dragon, and then Schalke just goes, screw it, and we'll rush the base. Everything and anything seemed to happen in that game. And, credit to the likes of Neon for the base defense, Gillian for that Ocean Drake steal. I've got to say, I feel really sorry for the likes of Skeens and Militzer, who had honestly a really good game. That Jace was terrifying in the side lane. Skeens on the Nidalee, some really good calls to find people a little bit caught out on the side lanes. Just wasn't enough, unfortunately, as the game went on.
Yeah, this game was honestly a mess before we even got into the draft, in my opinion. The draft from Vitality here on the second rotation makes almost no sense. So they had drafted up to this point Kai'Sa, Nidalee, Renekton. Okay, this is dive, right? So what do we want to have this go with? Jace, Nautilus. Okay, so Nautilus is fine in a lot of these spots. However, when you realize that Leona's still up, it's like, okay, well, you should just be picking Leona in a lot of the spots. But the Jace, that's the atrocity here in my eyes. No, Jace, no, bad. Play Galio, it makes far more sense in every aspect of the comp, but whatever. So in my eyes, we've already wrecked before we even get into the pick and ban, before we get into the game. Vitality then have the advantage in almost every single way, except that Schalke can't, for some reason, open their eyes. They just keep randomly walking into brushes without any vision. Half of them keep dying, but they always get a trade. It's like, I don't understand what's happening. I'm like molding the more as this game goes on. And then I'll be honest, we can skip past almost everything because Schalke had to try and punt this game for then Vitality to try and go even further for the Elder Drake, and then we just see Labrov going, okay guys, I'll try and stop them from backing while they still try and get the Elder Drake, and then you guys just go all down, run it down, and just hope to end. And they do! And Vitality are just like, oh yeah, our base is open, we've got no one defending it, we've all gone here, what happens if Schalke don't come and fight us? It hurt me, Milky. I hope you're happy. I'm so hurt.
Why would I be happy?
Oh man.
But okay, Vitality still came into this as a new roster, right?
Yes.
They still had a lot of silver linings. They still played well against the Schalke that came back from 0-9 to make it into playoffs. So surely this Vitality composition, you must think, okay, you know what? Over the course of the season, this does have promise.
Oh yeah, absolutely it does. Like some of the plays and stuff they were making were really strong. The problem was they hit this kind of mid-game point where they weren't able to kind of balloon their gold lead out into something insurmountable. And Schalke did a very good job of holding on, getting those trades that MaskedSwan was mentioning, even though they were in a very difficult position in terms of face checking and stuff. The one person who could kind of face check was Limit, or you send Gilius in with a speed buff and hope he can lantern back out and use a Zonius the best.
Which they did multiple times.
And they did, but it's not easy. It's not having an Ornn. It's not having a Leona or somebody or an Alistair who can go in and face check a lot more freely, and that did become quite difficult. And then Vitality as well. Credit to Skeens for stealing that Baron after things really nearly slipped away from them in that mid game. They couldn't blow it open.
I'd like to really jump on that point. Skeens was definitely the best player of Vitality by a huge margin. He really did put a lot of the team on the back. The steals he was doing, he was finding picks where they had no right in doing it. I remember early on they went for a gang up in top lane. I know Renekton and Nidalee is a very standard thing, but they did it really well. So I'll credit where credit's due over to Vitality, yeah.
Okay. Moving on to our final game of day one, Misfits versus Fnatic. And, again, it was another game that had a lot of hype around it. Misfits coming in, having not been, a particularly strong team in 2020. And Fnatic with those two switches in the roster, in the mid lane and in the ADC role. How would Upset perform? And Fnatic, again, not starting the season off well.
Yeah, I'm looking at this one. Fnatic, this was a killer minute game. Where Misfits got an ace at 14 minutes. this was honestly just like for no reason. Fnatic put pedal to the metal and kept asking Misfits over and over again, "Hey, let's fight, let's fight, let's fight," and Misfits were more than happy to do this, especially once they got their ace. For some reason, Fnatic were relentless with always trying to find their picks. Kobe and Vanda, I have to specifically shout them out first. Their early game versus Upsec and Hilly was phenomenal. And then moving later, we got to see, obviously, the clip that everyone has seen on Twitter of Vithio on that Zoe, getting the kill onto Niski, using the Zonya to then Sleepy Trouble Bubble to Paddlestar, kill Selfmade, and chef's kiss all around. Misfits Gaming look exciting moving forward.
It's also interesting for me, obviously, EU mids man, #1, of course. And, not even like that Niski
yeah?
was particularly bad in this game, honestly. It sometimes felt like he was one of the few people trying to hold on to this game. But even so, Viterbo manages to get around and then just detonate people in the jungle, like outtime some of those Zonyas and stuff. Really stylish stuff from the rookie coming in. And obviously, Deficio was talking a little bit around about the show as well, saying, actually, this guy's a rookie. We're going to give him some time, but we want to give him some resources because the guy is good. And you can see it there. It wasn't true all across the weekend, but when this guy pops off, he looks pretty fun. I also want to call out, of course, Hear It in that top side. This is a repeat of the matchup earlier on we saw between Armut and Wonder, where Wonder on the Gragas destroyed the Renekton. It wasn't close. The Gragas just got to run over that game, and the Renekton got to do nothing. Somehow, in the reverse matchup here, Hear It on the Renekton versus Bwipo's Gragas, Bwipo did not look comfortable on the pick, and Hear It really put the Gragas into the dirt, unfortunately. And that was another big selling point for Misfits this game, where Bwipo just wasn't finding the combos they needed.
Moving on to day 2 then of games, Schalke versus XL. And of course, Schalke coming off the back of that Vitality win. Weren't able to take the win against they weren't able to take the win against XL. And is that just a case of same stuff against another team, but this time not having that luck, that fortune to be able to close out the game due to what was a Vitality mistake?
I think the Vitality Schalke game kind of put a pretty hard spotlight on Schalke's flaws. Schalke should have won this game. They should have won this game once they got Ocean Soul. There is very little reason with their composition, which is a comp that actually likes Ocean Soul, that they should have no problems. But they decide to literally walk into XL and just see how far the game could go away from their grasps. The ace, obviously, at the 40-minute mark was just it. When they punt the game, they throw away Baron at the 40-minute mark, and it was all over. But honestly, XL allowed Schalke to do it. And I think moving forward, you're going to see a lot more from XL in their games, in their understanding of how to play against a lot of different teams. This team feels like a smart team. They might not be the best team when it comes to mechanics, but they've got good players and they've got smart players. And they were able to just break down and figure out how to beat Schalke when they honestly had no right in doing so. Credit where credit's due to XL in my eyes.
Yeah, once again, an EU top lane Gragas that isn't Wonder, not looking good. Broken Blaze Gragas was a bit suspect. And on the other side, Schalke got a massive advantage. They were so far ahead in this game. This Victor was monstrous. Neon on the Misfortune was so ahead. They've got Seraphine with all the shields and heals and encores and stuff to make things this as easy as you like. Problem is, you get to 40 minutes. Patrick has all the items in the world, and he's got a Lulu with Moonstone Renewer and a Staff of Flowing Waters. And then you've got an Orianna with all the AP in the world to add more shielding. And suddenly that Kai'Sa is unkillable. Absolutely disgustingly unkillable. And they basically couldn't finish up early enough and couldn't get the Baron secured to be able to push in against basically not enough wave clear, a lot of AP wave clear, which would have suffered somewhat against the Baron to close the game out. And hit a point where they just could not kill the Kai'Sa. They let it go too long. Limit got picked a few too many times, and the Gragas couldn't isolate the Kai'Sa.
Yeah. I feel like it took teams quite a while to realize, hey, Kai'Sa's really, really strong. Don't let anyone have a Kai'Sa. But maybe over the course of the split, or if there are any nerfs that do come through, that will change. Moving on then to our second game of day 2 and our game of the day, which was Vitality versus Misfits. And Vitality able to make amends for their mistakes against Schalke by taking the win.
Yeah, and this is over Misfits Gaming, who, as I already stated, I've got high hopes for Misfits moving forward. So this kind of does change my view a little bit on Vitality. I think I like Misfits draft a lot more in this game. They actually drafted Renekton top lane. Rezork specifically playing his Echo, who has a
He's
huge
very
win rate
focused
on
yeah,
his
plays well.
Echo. So it was a big deal for him to bring this out. We got to see the Victor and then the Kai'Sa Alistair bot lane, which is becoming a very standard bot lane at the moment because it's so good against other engaged supports and also just gets to bully other things. And you don't have to play Rel, which if you don't like playing Rel and your comp doesn't really fit it, works perfectly. Nothing bad about Rel. I actually think the champion's probably good in a lot of spots. It's just she's new, and it's a lot better to just still play Alistair. As opposed to Vitality's lineup of Ornn, Talia, and then double AD carry of Lucy and Ashe with Thresh. I'm less of a fan of this draft from Vitality. It's a lot more skill involved in doing it. However, that's where I actually have to end it because Vitality showed they had the skill in this game specifically. They were able to play around the map really well. They put Misfits behind very quickly, and Misfits have just kept playing very quick games. They've got one of the shortest games in the whole league across these 3 days. So the game was accelerated because Misfits always want to find kills. As such, Vitality got to snowball a lot further, and Malika?
Militza.
Militza, thank you, lads. Popped off so hard on this
big time.
Lucian in the mid lane. He killed Vithio in the mid lane in a 1v1, and also then was just able to snowball the game so many ways. Actually, no, he didn't do it in a 1v1. He got a help.
An arrow coming in and helping him out.
That's it. Yeah, I knew there was some form of help. Thank you, Initialise.
I went back to, again, second game of the day, I went back to just watch it about half an hour ago to make sure I knew what was going on again.
He gets that, snowballs, and is just so far. His positioning was just so solid. He rarely was getting caught out. And this is an Echo Renekton. They're going to try and find really weird angles to do that. Being a Lucian and being safe all the time, really good. LeBrav also needs to get a shout out because of the Thresh Lanterns. Vitality apparently like Thresh, is what I'm going to leave that on. Yeah, I loved it. Initialize, go for it.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with a lot of those points. And this is kind of the other side of the rookie coin. In that while your mechanics can be really good and your play in the instances you know can be really good, things that do get you caught out is where should you be on a map at a given time compared to wave positioning and vision and tracking enemy junglers and or just players in general and communication. Teo gets caught out in mid by an arrow that comes at him. He gets blown up real quickly. He gets caught out in a side lane by Militza and Skeens turning up as a Talia Lucian roaming combo that was so deadly in this game. And they blow him up. And suddenly, like, despite Razork and Hirit kind of doing a relatively good job at keeping the game even, honestly, in the early game, especially because the mid and bot lanes had lost a lot of plates from pressure, if nothing else. I think credit to Comp and Militza for that.
Yeah, they brought the game basically back to even.
Right, yeah, and Razork and Hirit got themselves the Herald. They were charging on that top lane, got a kill on to Sigenda. Apologize. And so there was some good stuff there. You're thinking, okay, these are good set plays. But the game starts falling away from them when in this kind of even state, Vitality basically are much more proactive and catch out people where they shouldn't, particularly Viteo, who got a little bit caught. And then the Baron happens, and things like Razork dying before he gets to use Chrono Break is a frustration. Similarly, Hirit kind of falls off a little as well. He ends up at that same 1-4 and 2 scoreline as Viteo. And then at that point, I have to give credit to Vitality for getting that first Baron and then really turning the screws. Like, it just didn't look like there was much chance for Misfits to come back after that. And that kind of ruthlessness in closing games, you know, they get one Baron, take most of everything, get a second Baron, and just put the nail in the coffin, was good stuff from Vitality. They really did well at ending that game.
Vitality definitely looking at clean after the Misfits win. Third game of the day. Madlions versus Astralis, two teams that were on a loss after their opening day. And Madlions showing, hey, we're not playing against the G2, we can win now.
Yep, I'm not going to have much to say about this one outside of Kennen in this draft is horrible. Okay? There is no reason to do it. It's bad, but okay. Outside of that, Madlions just played so well. And everyone on the side of Madlions was just so much better. This is hilariously almost the same as draft diff between what we saw of G2 versus Madlions. But now it's Madlions versus Astralis. So we've got draft diff there, player diff there. Yeah,
Oh,
Madlions just were better in every way. I'm sorry.
okay, so there was one decent outplay from the cannon under tower the first time, and ever after that he was just a walking sack of gold. It was
Yep.
like going out into the wild on Route 2, finding a Pichu and kicking it in the ass with your level 100 Charizard. Electric Rats did not have a good time in this game, and
Oh, God.
you're drafting this cannon that is behind into a Twisted Fate, into the Nautilus, who just gets to press R on you, onto Kai'Su, who can press R. You've got the Nidalee as well, who can hit you from way beyond the range of your Slicing Maelstrom. There's an Aatrox as well. And they just get to dance around tower aggro, not get caught up by the Slicing Maelstrom. And this poor cannon ends up 1-5-1. Zanzaro as well is on a starved Hecarim who's down by the end of the game like 4k to the opposing Nidalee, who obviously once she's got priority will destroy your jungler. And as Hecarim, you are not low economy. You need gold to be useful in the game. Like he just about finished his Divine Sunder, I think he went for. Yeah, it was Divine Sunder, and he was like part way to what looks like something like a Black Cleaver second. I'm not sure. He's got Phage in inventory. Still getting used to these new items. Like that's it.
I think we all are.
Compared to what 3.5 items from the Nidalee, like that is not good. And when you kind of just have one side of the map collapse as hard as it did, and then the Samira, who's very short range, not exactly going to be the easiest to push up either, especially when you're afraid of people like a Nidalee and a Twisted Fate just turning up and blowing you up. You don't get a jungle. You're then far behind. Hecarim does nothing. He's like a pony rather than a warhorse. And we've already mentioned the Kennen to death at this point. And then you're like, okay, well, what does this draft do now when it can't go forwards? Like, you see the idea, right? Kennen, Hecarim, and Alistair press R and charge in. Great.
Yeah.
But you
It's
need
the
to
whole
hit a
reason
mid
why I
game.
don't. Yeah, it's the whole reason why I don't have much to say about this, because once the cannon was just a walking fan of gold, as you've already said, Initialise, the game fell over at the moment that Mad Lions got the Baron. It was just a really sad game, really.
I'm happy for
Uh,
Armut though. Great recovery.
Oh,
Especially
yeah.
compared to
yeah.
his first game where like it was almost like, oh my days, obviously Arome didn't have the best 2020, don't get me wrong, but it's like, have Mad Lions just kind of side or downgraded? This did not look good. And then you see this game and the guy on Aatrox goes 6-0-5, looks fantastic. Again, maybe not against the top tier opponents in the LEC, but all the same, it's much better recovery game than perhaps people might have expected.
Then going on to our fourth game of the day, G2 versus SK. And G2, I mean, kind of as expected, were able to take the win.
Yeah, Wonder playing the Ivan in this game, showing how to play it to, might be a little bit of a call out to a certain top laner of Karzi. But let's be real, SK actually had a pretty good early game. They were able to keep in parity in gold. They got a kill advantage, but the gold stayed even. But G2 kind of just showed the screw of how they're able to just get objectives over time, get neutral objectives, keep things even. Oh, we've got 3 dragons, even turrets. Our gold's even. They just keep screwing it over, and then Ocean Soul G2 just go, we win. And they did, and it showed another way that G2 can play the game. They played this game vastly different to how they played their first game, and this is G2 playing with a brand new AD carry. This is a new member on this team. We all know Reckless is going to be mechanically strong, but we were all concerned if he can integrate. This is a game played very different from all members of G2, and it worked brilliantly. My God, do we need to be scared for a lot of them? And I'm also looking forward to when G2 play Rogue, because that could definitely be a spicy one.
Initialise, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, got covered it mostly. I mean, I really enjoyed seeing Blue in this game on the Silas. I actually think another one of these rookies coming in, and you're going to pop off against Caps and look really good. Actually, he ended at 2-0-3. It wasn't the win, obviously, but he was pretty scary in that game, and that was great to see. Honestly, and then
He got first blood, didn't he?
with a little help of Tinks, I think. Tinks got it, but it was the two of them duoing up. They got first blood against it. Caps definitely not having the easiest time on the Twisted Fate. Obviously, it's G2. They use the macro ability of a Twisted Fate exceptionally well. That's what happens later on to the game. I mean, on the other side as well, this is Yankos on Graves. This is not gank, and obviously he had a bit of a rough time early on where he had to shield from his lanes. Wonder in a bit of a tricky spot early on in the Ivern occasionally. But once he started getting into that mid game, Jankos' mid game graves in the last few times we've seen it has been really strong. And he ends up 6-0 and 5, and that's another good sign for G2 as another check mark in the box saying yes, we can play through Jankos a bit more when we need to as well.
Yeah. And then the final game of day 2, Fnatic versus Rogue. And Fnatic, after that loss of Misfits, I mean, they needed to come back. They needed to kind of show, that was just a blip. We can do something. But Rogue, again, just look on absolute top form and dismantle Fnatic.
This is why, gentlemen, I referenced earlier, I'm excited to see G2 face off against Rogue, because this game was textbooked why Rogue, and specifically their bot lane AD carry of Hans Summer, could be coming up and might be trying to cement themselves as the second best AD carry, and even looking at Reckless going, hey, mate, now that Perks is gone, I'm your main competition, and I'm here to party. Teams need to start banning Kai'Sa, okay? We'll go into this far more in another segment later, but Kai'Sa, no. Bad. Ban this champion, please. The amount that she's doing internationally is enough, but whatever. Rogue showed that they were willing to keep a very even game for about 20 or so minutes. A big mistake did come out of Selfmade, where he gets caught out at the 21-minute mark. He gets too greedy, and most of Fnatic actually die for that, trying to save him. And then from there, Rogue are able to just keep pushing forward. The game was even up to that 21-minute mark. And then the only difference is that Rogue had 3 dragons. And wait, who does that sound like? I referenced that. That was G2. Rogue did the exact same thing. They had an even game versus Fnatic. Fnatic made a mistake. They collapsed on them, got the Dragon's Soul, and it was all over. Game was just Rogue, Hans Summer's so good, Larson's so good, Odoamne, they're all so good.
It looked really crisp again, actually, particularly in that mid game. And it's also something a little bit about saying, I'm willing to pick up some of these other champions that you're not. That is what you've got. The Kai'Sa are with the Killer Instinct, you've got the Destiny Gate from Twisted Fate. It's inspired on Pantheon for that Grand Starfall. That's just a few more globals to really put the hurt on.
They got those champions initialized.
Well,
the fact that they got them, right?
Well, yeah, but you look at the other side and you're going, what's the priority on Volibear right now? Really? And obviously I like Nisqy on the Galio. I have no problem with. I actually think he's a very good Galio. I think it helps support Selfmade, and that's something that was really good. Selfmade on Graves, really happy with. Upset on the Aphelios at the minute. Aphelios pretty strong. I'm pretty happy with that. But things like the Volibear, when okay, well, wouldn't something like maybe the Ornn have been a little bit better to disengage and be a little bit more, not necessarily global, but you've got something to help fight off against some of these dives a bit. Something like that might have been nicer. And I don't know, man. There is something about the way Rogue are playing around, particularly those mid to late game globals were really, really good. Hans Hammer's a genius, don't get me wrong. I've loved this guy way back since when he first came into the scene. He's got this rookie superstar in Trimby alongside him who he can mentor up. I think this team, I'm just looking forward to when they play off against the likes of G2 and some of the other top of the tier squads, because Rogue are coming for the top, actually. I think these guys legit could be a contender, or are one right now. It's only been a week, but hey, I see great signs of greatness.
And before we move on to day 3, I just want to bring something up, because I remember when the G2 super team was formed, when Caps went over to G2. And of course, there were all the questions of, will the super team be able to perform? Will Perks be able to play as an ADC? Will it crumble? And then when G2 started dominating, people were saying, oh, G2, they just look absolutely way too good for the LEC. They might win Worlds. I mean, they almost did. But I remember one of the comments, I can't remember who made it, was the fact that now that G2 have this super team, now that they have such a solid team that is performing well on an international scene as well, winning MSI, the comments were, this is going to help bring up the rest of Europe. And I think Rogue, what we're seeing from them, is a direct product of that.
You only get better from losing, and it has well and truly started to happen. And it wasn't going to be instantaneous, even though it was 2019 when G2 looked like they were the unstoppable beast of the West, and they might potentially be the world's winner. They won MSI. They got so close to that world trophy. Yep. Sadly, it wasn't to be. But that definitely did bring up the level, and we are slowly starting to see. We saw Madlions and Rogue of last year's definitely starting to look like they might be rising to the top. They even got top of spring, I believe. Madlions did, right? Or was it?
They got. I think Madlions were near the top at spring. Rogue did the same in summer. Like
Yeah.
there was good. Some of these guys do look good. I think Madlions got a little way to recover from when they were at their peak, and there's still
Sure.
a few teething problems there. But Rogue definitely keep up with things. Odoamne has been a really smart pickup. I think he's a much better weak side player than Thin was. And
if I may initialize, this kind of goes with what I was saying about XL. I don't think they're mechanically the best team, but they're definitely a smart team on the Rift. And you could argue that the level of play internationally has just gotten higher. We can attest to that ourselves. But EU and LEC definitely feels like year on year, since that G2 dominance of 2019, coming into 2020, we started to see it with Rogue and Madlions. 2021, we're seeing it again. More teams are coming out. And hey, it's a nice change from just Fnatic and G2 being the top team.
Massive. And, you know, like I'm looking over at some of these stats here as well. And, you know, that's 10 towers to 1 in favor of Rogue. You know, it's 4 dragons to Nero. They've got it's 24 kills to 10. Like, it was not a close game once it started rolling. And yes, Fnatic got some picks back in places, but, you know, real credit to Rogue's macro sense, if nothing else. It's a team that it's got a lot of veterans on and has stayed together, at least as a 3-man unit, bringing in 1 veteran, bringing in 1 rookie. But at the same time, like, serious credit to where they're playing this early in the season. That was good stuff in this game.
Yeah. I will come back to this whole kind of idea philosophy of has G2 changed Europe? You know, how has it happened a little bit later on in the show, namely after we finish the 3rd day of games, because the first game of day 3 was Astralis against Vitality. And Astralis, they were able to take the win, and I'm really happy for one main reason, because it means we got to see an interview with Zanzara, and that man is hilarious.
That man's interview is worth watching. If we can we have it right above a little link right here, editor, right here, a link to it. It's worthwhile to link to this content right above me here. Why? This man is hilarious. The other thing is, Vitality, they drafted a champion who I have serious concerns about, and I've rolled up my arms for serious reasons, because it's very serious business.
Yes.
Serious. Don't pick LeBlanc, people. I know it's a favorite of a lot of players. I've already had to flame one player on broadcast for mine and Initialise about this. LeBlanc isn't very good at the moment. She's been picked 7 times in major regions or minor regions, and she's only won once. And that was over in the LPL, where they play a lot more games than we do anywhere. Well, they play more games than anywhere else. She's not good. She doesn't work in the meta. Her item build isn't great. Guys, I know you like the champion. I'm not saying you can't play her. Just don't expect to win games, okay? Just, cool. Anyway, outside of that, it's a really weird game. Astralis pulled ahead once White Knight positioned a lot better, but White Knight's positioning in the early game was just, bronze? No, silver. Silver. It was my solo queue.
I was about to say, isn't that what you're accustomed to?
I've just got it's just like I just remember the clown car of the bot lane dive. It looked perfect for Vitality, and then suddenly they just couldn't get out from under the tower the right way, and then Astralis just teleport back in and get a number of kills back. And you hear the broadcast team going like, "What? What happened? How did this happen?" And I feel like that just felt my way of watching this game. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What was this game? And I just saw like a number of people afterwards going, that was...
Cadrel head in his hands just thinking, why did I leave the pro scene?
I mean, if this is the pro scene, then clearly there needs to be a little bit more clown makeup going on. Obviously, I'm being a little bit rude here in some ways, but I think it wasn't a clean game of Legends. It was a game of League of Legends. There's not really that much more to say. I mean, Vitality made some decent moves. They just didn't pull them off cleanly. They did get to a lead, but once again, they weren't sure what to do once they got the lead. I feel like I've seen it from this team before, hinting. On the other side, you know, there is a certain amount of veteranship here. Nuked Up ended up 3-0 and 10 on the Twisted Fate. Relatively impactful there. That was quite important. And then team comp-wise, you've just got, you've got a lot of pick, a lot of tankiness, and if people are stupid diving forwards and you get to pick them off with a gold card, you do what you need to do, right?
Exactly.
Moving on then to our second game of day 3, Rogue versus SK, and again, no surprises that Rogue again still looks so crisp, and Rogue just dominated again.
This is why Rogue has a great average time. They are bang in the middle between some of the top teams. Well, they're actually just only 2 minutes behind G2 in their average close. Rogue just textbook advantage. One, they honestly draft diff again. They're playing the Rel this time for Trimby, that rookie support player coming in hot with the great counter pick on Treats. Larson gets his first death. By the way, he had gone 2 days without dying and then got his first death towards the very end of this game. It was very sad.
Sad.
But yeah, we were.
I had
all
more
very
fantasy
sad.
LEC. That fight where Larson died, I was there. I was like, no, yes, no.
No!
For about 10 seconds straight.
Oh,
This was a disappointing one when he did die, but like, outside of that, Inspired Nidalee was gorgeous. Not the build I probably wanted to see, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm not gonna flame them for the Night Harvester. It's more than okay with the Lich Bane and everything else.
it's a lot of damage.
And this game really exploited Blue Silas, and to be honest, Blue specifically as a player. And I would be very interested to see the future of SK, because if this starts to become a repeating thing I'm seeing, yeah, SK might have a lot of problems moving forward, personally. For me.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear Initialise on this as well.
I mean, so Silas works at the minute, basically, if you have got a lot of good ultimates to work around. He doesn't really get to pick those ones. It needs to be good into your lane matchup specifically. Doesn't matter where there's otherwise on the map. Early on, you need to be able to use it. So there's a reason why, last season he was being picked into Ornn in the top lane, for example. That Ornn is just so
But
damn
mate,
good.
this Silas
like,
weren't no Aria Silas. This was a blue Silas, and there's a big difference between these two players.
Remember the first
and
time we called out
Aria.
Silas? So remember the first. Aria is a genius. Don't you
Aria
dare.
is a
Remember,
genius.
I am here in the Church of Aria with this guy.
We
Don't
are
you
all
dare.
part of the Church
Anyway.
of Aria. If you don't know the Church of Aria, please join the Church of Aria.
Man's a monster. Anyway, I mean, Blue's first game on Saturday, he had a great game. Hell, he managed to get first blood onto Caps, right? Like, that's damn good. It wasn't so good this time out. And partly, again, as I think Rogue are playing really well around things like globals or at least the ability to follow up from a long way away. Hansama gets hold of Kai'Sa. He's a really damn good player. He goes 9-1-4. It's Rel, who is a great engaged champion who is not named Alistair. Also a good option. Inspired, looking strong. Larson gets a turn up, and Odoamne is on Aatrox. He can play to the weak side as he has to, and there's not that much more to write home about because it was a pretty steady win for Rogue. The gold lead goes up pretty straight. They had a good game, and I'm not entirely convinced by the Ezreal pick here. I think it gives too much of a free lane to Kai'Sa, probably, unless you're going very aggressive.
that was the thing,
he's got
wasn't
the
it?
exhaust. He's got the exhaust ignite. Like, you hope that's aggressive enough, but they don't manage to get it to work. And I think the other thing is, if you're going to run the Graves at that point, he needs to be down there. And the Silas just needs to go in, and they didn't really manage to make it work, unfortunately. And that meant Hansama gets rolling, and then you've got Nidalee and a Twisted Fate to turn up and help where you need them to.
I mean, I just want to quickly put in, the Ezreal early on wasn't bad. I mean, SK got two quick kills on the bottom side of the map, and then all of a sudden it just starts going downhill because you've got Ezreal.
That's actually really true.
Hansama has Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa is, to use the term, poggers. So,
No, you're right. You are right.
I mean, that's the reason why I called out. Ezreal needs to be played hyper aggressive if you want to make it work right now. And getting the 2 kills is good. But then Hansama, the fact he's still relevant and you don't shut him out of the game is a problem, because you can do that with Kai'Sa. If you can keep her under tower, she is a short-range AD carry. And yes, she can dash, duck, dodge, dive, and all the rest of it. I can't remember the dodge, dip, dive, and dodge.
There's a lot of these,
and I added a dash in because it's Kai'Sa. That's where it all got confusing. I'm with you now.
They can also die as well, to be honest.
And especially if you can get her before the supercharger gets the upgrade. Like, she doesn't get the invisibility. Like, you absolutely can dive that champion if she's caught in a tower and she's not getting single target Acathian Reigns. They didn't manage to pull that off, really. Hansama gets to scale up to infinity, and they get enough support to stop that from happening.
Moving on to our third game of the day, and on day 3, it was such a difficult day to pick a best best game of the day, just because there were so many good games. But in the end, MaskedSwan, you and I decided to go for the Misfits Madlions game. And, Misfits had that win against Fnatic, Madlions had that loss to G2, and it all looked a little bit weird. How would these two teams match up, especially with Misfits having that defeat against Vitality? But Misfits were able to show that defeat against Vitality was just a blip, and they were able to come out on top against Madlions.
Yeah, this kind of just shows how hot and coldness that Vitality is potentially going to be showing moving forward. We've already seen them having that loss to Astralis on day 3, which kind of is starting to cement a lot of what my thoughts around Vitality are. This game was just Misfits pulling the trigger once their champions had scaled a little bit. They're playing a comp which definitely wants to get 1 or 2 item spikes. What were they playing? They were playing Vayne. Kobe's Vayne had only lost 1 game, and that was in the 2020 quarterfinals when he pulled it out as game 4 to try and get a win. They didn't get the win, but he pulled it out after having 7 wins on this champion before. He had an 100% win rate. Now it went to 87. With this win, it goes back to 88 win rate. This man's a monster on this Vayne. He got a few items, and then they started pulling the trigger. They started playing around the turrets. It got to the 28-minute mark. They were literally grinding the game out so they can go, okay, guys, okay, wait, okay, Vayne item power spike with Vithio also getting a bunch of stacks onto his Magi Soul Stealer just allowed them to just steamroll everybody. The fact that Vander was hard smurfing on the side of the Mad Lions as well helped significantly. And once they had gotten it was the 18-minute mark when they pulled the trigger, not 28 minutes. That'd be far too late into the game for Misfits with some of the fastest games. But at the 20-minute mark, they get the Baron and the game's all over. They just start steamrolling every way. They just don't care. They win it. They get the Dragon Soul. And Misfits look smart, cold, calculated. And Razork's early game was just dirty as anything. He just basically prevented Mad Lions from even coming into this game in the early part.
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty poor for Misfits early on, because that was an interesting level 1 tumble from Kobe, whose Vayne has had so much praise. He dies for first blood really, really early on to Kaiser, of all people, in the bot side, and you're thinking, oh no,
here we go again.
What was that tumble? And then, actually things start looking good. And the remaining members of Mad Lions had a bit of a doozy, honestly, from last year. Humanoid, Kazi, Kaiser did not end that game well. Kazi getting caught out by the Vayne in the bush, tumbling out and pinning into the wall. It was, don't get me wrong,
to be fair to Kazi, he got pinned into a wall that was like a mile away. It
was max range for condemnment and max range push that got him there. So it's really unlucky, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, it's dumb stuff like that which gets you in trouble. And then the fact that even when, Misfits are playing around weaker early champions in a Vayne, and Camille versus Renekton, where Renekton, generally speaking, the team fights earlier on probably has a little bit more to say about things. They lose the first 2 dragons and lose kills around them nonetheless as well.
Yep.
Isn't good. Hell, they lose the first 3, but the fact, you've lost kills and dragons at the same time in the early game, when really you probably have something advantage, isn't a good look. And then when you end the game at 0-6 and 4 for Humanoid, 0-7 and 7 for Kazi, 1-7 and 4 for Kaiser, like, that's not what you want to see from your veteran members, from your returning members. And real credit to the Misfits for pulling the trigger when they did. Good recovery from Kobe, and Razork on that Olaf. Just monstrous. 12-2 and 8 for the guy. He took command of those early dragon fights and just never let it go from there.
And just to end this, sorry, I have to mention this little thing. Misfits map controls. When it comes to the map control across the whole map, they only did kills or died on Mad Lions' side of the map. Mad Lions had no opportunity to ever come in and really try and get some deep vision, get something going on, find anybody floating in the Misfits jungle. They had full control, and so much of this game was forced into Mad Lion's side of the jungle, side of the map, because Misfits just understood how to manipulate the wave control. They also just got the really deep vision, and this is how they started find those early kills. Kobe dying early on was hilariously a way for Misfits to eventually just go, yeah, but we're just kind of good at playing around the map and finding micros. And as you already mentioned, Initialize, they got that max range stuff. They completely BM'd Kazi, and through that just dominated.
Yeah.
Misfits just, oh man,
I mean,
I'm almost at a loss for words.
I also want to call out that actually Madlions had a really tricky time of making proactive plays themselves with this comp. Like,
They really did.
they haven't got very many easy ways to get on or lock someone down for long. You know, Zoe's going to be firing from miles away. Camille is slippery as you like. Olaf gets to pop Ragnarok. Leona's tanky. And we know what Vayne can be like if she's playing well around the final
Unless
hour
it's
and
Kobe
stuff.
level 1, right? Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
at level 1, you're tumbling, and you're Vayne spotting. Like, there is always a world, you know, and there's like Madlions had some good like anti-dive with, you know, Victor's grab field with, you know, Galio when he got to come in, Renekton being in the front with in the front face, and, you know, and Graves and Kai'Sa able to dash around a certain amount, but no real way to go forward unless you went in with your face or a flashed Ruthless Predator or something from a Renekton. But that's kind of it. And doing that is really risky when when actually you're already a long way behind. Whereas for Misfits, you know, you throw Camille in with a hookshot flash or a Leona solar flare or a bubble lands or Olaf just runs in. You've got so many more tools to start a fight. And I found Madlions struggled a little bit more with some of the drafting issues there as well, honestly.
Right, we're going to push through the next 2 games because we still have to talk about the matchups for this weekend of league, as well as talking about, you know, how we think the teams have done overall, and maybe a bit of a rookie ranking as well. Not too much though. Okay, so the next game, Fnatic versus Schalke. Fnatic still without a win, not looking that good, but then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we can play a league, and they got their first win of the weekend.
It's a little bit overzealous. I think Fnatic finally figured out that Upset can actually play AD carries, and if they play around him, he can actually carry them. Weird. It's like their previous AD carry actually did far more than what the team actually believed. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. In all fairness, credit where credit's due. Upset and this Samira looked unbelievable. Niski on this TF. Niski playing Twisted Fate is just bread and butter for him. Selfmade finally actually had a really solid game, even though he did miss a Graves ult and started standing still, and everyone was laughing.
I remember that.
He missed he missed the ult on Gilius, I think it was, when he Zonya'd or something.
And then he kill stole from, was it Whippo or Upset?
It was
like, a couple of minutes
Upset, I
later.
think, or something. Yeah, Upset got them super low, and then he's like, yeah, I got that one. Woo! It's like, way, kids, I did it. But
good job, Selfmade.
In a way, and I don't mean to flame Schalke here, Fnatic just looked better in a lot of parts of this game, and in a way, Schalke felt like they just weren't prepared for this. Broken Blade looked very exploitable, may I add.
I mean, we'll get onto that.
Yeah, go for it. Go for Initialise.
If you're going to pick Jax and then die at 25-ish minutes in a 1v1 to an Ornn, when the Ornn doesn't, and when you fail to play around Ornn's pillar, which is like the core part of his combo, then why are you playing Jax, frankly? It was, you know, you pick the Jax to win the side lane, you lose the side lane in the late game, which is unacceptable, frankly, on that Jax at the point you were at. And, you know, you saw some good ideas from the likes of Abaddagi and Gilius, don't get me wrong, but when effectively your comp is, we are going to 1-3-1 with Abaddagi in one side lane, and then Jax in another, and then you hold the mid with your Kai'Sa, your Galio, and your can do this. Lilia, there we go. And they turn up where they need to. That's the idea. But then you're doing that into a Twisted Fate who just turn up wherever the hell he likes. And then your Jax fails to win the side lane. And then Upset pops off. And there's no way of stopping that Samira when she's going, it felt like. You were like waiting on limit desperately for a taunt. Or they were like out of CC.
That was it, really. That was it. I'm fine with to go on to the next one. I don't have more to say. It was just Upset diff, right?
Yeah, Upset Def and Broken Blade. If you're going to play Jax, you can't lose those 1v1s.
Yeah. So, final game of the day, XLG2. And, well, G2, again, looking good. Take the win.
G2, Keck W. The most important thing about this game is actually Reckless getting the last death of the LEC. That's the bigger news here. Larson dying and then Reckless also dying. That's the catastrophes of this game. Nothing else matters. G2 diff. Sorry.
I mean, I was in like some of the plays that G2 pulled out in this game, like caps under that top tier, under that bot tier 2, surviving for so long in the 1v2 was
good.
utterly nuts. Wonders Aurelia, like I understand that Mickey's Brawl was really good and he won player of the game. I
Oh, yes.
understand. But for me, Wonders Aurelia was something special. Hell, he came into the LCS when it was the LCS over here as Wonderwear, as an
Yeah,
Aurelia one
Moss one,
trick
did
in
you
the
get
top
that?
side.
Yeah, you know, it used to be the
To the
LCS.
LCS. It's rebranded in like 2017. And like that
Wait
little
a
while ago.
second. Is that why this show's called the eLECtric? I get it now.
It's because they really like Milky really likes the word trick, so they wanted to color it up. That's all it is.
Finally understand it. Oh.
But no, yeah, but so and like so some of the actual like outplays from G2 fabulous, but honestly, the fact that it felt as close and tense as it did is partly because G2 didn't have the most front line, I think, and they were down to Soul Point for a while, which was a bit scary. And you know,
Yeah.
actually, cries on that Camille was a terror. Checkerlad's Syndra was getting to a point as well where it was pretty terrifying. So credit to XL for even when they were miles behind in golden kills, still looking like a threat, you know. But G2 have got a bit of G2 magic when it comes to team fighting.
I mean, I thought XL, you know, they did all right. As you mentioned, they got themselves to Soul Point down, looked good. XL, you know, they looked like they knew what they were doing. And I know at the end of the game in the interview with Grabs, he was saying, well, if you're going to blind pick Camille, we're going to punish you. But then, kind of having said that, you know, we've seen over in the LCK just so much Camille just being picked up, just blind pick, blind pick, blind pick. So I don't really know where to stand on that entire idea right now.
It means you have to be a good Aurelia player, I suspect, basically, because that's, well, I mean, that is the, or a Jax player or something like that, where it's like, okay, if you're going to do that, and I will pick somebody else who I can bring in, who is another top lane duelist, who is also a good team fighter. I think probably Camille is a safer option because Hookshot allows you to get out a lot more easily than Aurelia's Blade Surge does. You need the minion wave there, and that's not a guarantee. But you see the idea, right? And you've, and I liked what I saw, honestly, from some of the stuff there.
Well, on that note, let's take a look then at how the LEC standings are shaping out after 3 days of games. So G2 and Rogue tied at the top of the standings, 3 wins and 0 losses. Now, I want to bring up a really, really cool stat because, MaskedSwan, when we saw these standings, I just had an inkling of a feeling, and then we checked it up, and it was actually true. So, Initialise, guess when the last time in the LEC, after 3 days of games, there were no teams that were winless?
Oh man, 2018 maybe? Spring.
So, you need to go well before EULCS became LEC.
Really? Or is it like 2013 then? Of course, 2013, everybody beats everybody and then Fnatic wins. Those kind of eras that we're talking.
Pretty much. So you have to go all the way back to 2014. This is before Ninjas in Pajamas left
Man,
EULCS.
this was the first split I was watching properly. Flipping heck.
In fact, in the entire history of EULCS and LEC, when it has been a single group, it has never ever happened. You have to go back to when there was Group A and Group B in 2014.
Nuts. That's kind of crazy, actually.
So, and this is what I wanted to bring up because again, I think this is giving a testament to this G2 super team that has, I think, raised the quality of all the other teams, and we have the closest split in the history of LEC and EULCS after 3 days.
Yeah, to really hammer how close it is, every team outside well, 4 teams are only missing in No Man's Land when it comes to game duration. Only 4 teams actually have longer than 35 minutes. Everybody else is in a pack. 6 teams are in a pack between like the 30-ish minute mark all the way up to the 35-minute mark. Most teams are in that kind of spectrum. And just to really emphasize it, Rogue, then Misfits, and then G2. All of the positive teams are basically within a 2-minute mark of each other with their average game time duration. Like, everyone is together. And the only teams that are going longer are the teams that are slightly lower on the standings, but still 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I think it is interesting that MaskedSwan calls out that timing discrepancy, because there is something to that. We've seen a few teams who have struggled to do enough with their advantages in the mid and late game and close things out. Vitality comes to mind when they had that Jace mid game, right, where they got the 6k ahead and couldn't close it out. Who else was there? When XL obviously got that turnaround win because the other team couldn't close it out. I believe, in fact, that was Schalke, wasn't it? They couldn't close it out because they let it get too late. And that has been a little bit of a problem thus far early on. The teams that can finish and close out decisively have definitely looked like victors in the early weeks, at least, of the LEC.
And let's not get too much into the whole semantics and the micros of each team, but I think right now it's quite clear, G2 and Rogue, best two teams in the league, without a doubt. Who's better out of those two? We could probably, make an entire series of podcasts about that. Misfits Gaming, I am probably... Misfits Gaming are probably third. I mean, interject if you disagree with me. I mean, they're third in the standings and they look good. I mean, potentially that bit of a blip, that poor performance against Vitality is what sees them, not being 3-0.
Yeah.
Go for it. You go.
Oh,
You go. You're the guest. You're the guest.
Guest
Go.
Thank you. I mean, basically, what I'm saying is we've got, when Misfits are on the front foot, they look really strong, honestly. Or when they can at least retain some level of control, even if things are even and they're waiting to scale. As long as they have some idea about what's happening, they look good. The two rookies, of course, if they end up getting put behind the one time they did, when things aren't kind of known quantities, or they're not able to make them known quantities, then things start looking a bit scary. And that's why I think they'll probably struggle to really push for the top two in this split. If only because I think there will still be some growing pains, right, for Hirit and for Vettel, who have obviously got a lot of raw talent. They've proved it already, and the veterans are there to help keep them growing. But there's a bit of growth to be done. So I'm very excited for this team come summer, and I think they're definitely blue shell and top half of the table worthy for at least spring.
Quickly, in my opinion, I think Fnatic are definitely a team you need to worry about come later into the split. They'll definitely figure things out. I think you're crazy if you're writing them off. I think Misfits definitely showed that they can be exploited, and I think the better teams will do that when they did lose to Vitality. I think part of that was actually more Misfits' fault than Vitality being a lot better than we all think. But credit where credit's due, Vitality could definitely be a mid-place table team instead of at the very bottom where a lot of analysts have got them. I also think Madlions definitely have the opportunity. They have got this history of the org. The org is very young, but they already have the history of going, hey, we can get some rookies, we can train them up, and we can figure it out. I'm excited. I think the top 5 teams are going to be G2, Rogue, Misfits, Mad, and Fnatic. Now, the ordering of that will change as in week and week in, especially meta dependent. But I'm excited to see how it goes.
And I want to move on now to some of the rookies. Obviously, the funniest rookie of the split goes to Zanzara. I'm not taking any objections there. Like, you can just get out. In terms of best performing rookie of the split, I want to talk about second place best rookie, because we all know that the best rookie is a man that was promoted from G2 Esports Academy, aka Fnatic. Reckless, absolutely performing fantastically.
Of course,
but who do you think is the second?
A long time now.
It's been coming for a long time. I can't believe he's finally got the call.
It's been such a long time. I know.
Okay, so
you've broken me, guys. Well done. Well done.
Okay, second best rookie, or in all seriousness, the best rookie, or who do you think has come up and has been like, this guy, he's going to be good?
So you've got really, I think there's a short list after Razork. I think they're definitely up there, honestly, in the grand scale of things. I think Vithio is definitely a player a lot of people need to be paying attention to. That Zoe mechanic just already proving. Trimby, 100%. We were shouting them out on episode 1. I said there could be a chance this could be 2 steps forward, 1 step back with this player at the beginning. This might not even need to be a step back. This might be neutral and only gets better if he can actually properly fill those shoes for Vanda. And Inspired, again, another player on row. Oh no, Inspired's already been around for a year.
Inspired and Razork have both been in the LEC before, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, they have. Razork was on Misfits last split as well.
Oh, was he? Okay, then just completely get rid of me. Trimby then. I'm going Trimby.
Yeah.
Initialize?
Trimby would have been my call as well, I think.
Yeah. I
Uh,
think I can agree that, it is probably between VTO and Trimby here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I'll say is Trimby is obviously bolstered by the fact Rogue have got a lot of veterans around to make things look good, and obviously he's also laning with Handsammer, who is been a monstrously lane dominant AD carry for a long, long time. It's been a little bit more dicey when he's playing weak side or sometimes later into the games when he tries to go for big plays and they haven't always worked. But he's always been in that conversation for top 3 AD carries in the region for quite a while now, really. And
Yeah.
that obviously helps out Trimby, but he's really impressed me.
I want to continue on with this discussion about rookies, but first I want to lead on from what you just said about Handsammer. Do you think Handsammer is now, without question, second best ADC in Europe, maybe even up there with Reckless right now?
I mean, off a week of games, sure, he's looked fabulous, but I'm waiting to see how long it takes Fnatic to settle and work out what the hell they're doing as a roster, because Upset I still think is really good. He's had the one Samira game, which was still really strong. There is still the likes of people like Patrick or maybe even Neon, who have obviously had moments in the past when they're great. Kazi as well, also, not even that long ago was really, really good. Yes, Madlions are looking a little bit out of sorts at the minute, but, I think it's a little early to say, but at least in my heart, I want him to be, because I've been a big Handsammer fan for a long time.
Okay, so final rookie I want to bring up is Elyoya, because I think for Elyoya, he's performed, in my opinion, I think he's performed really well. He got a big lead for Madlions, I feel, in the start of the G2 game, and I think that he's performed really well on the opening 3 days.
Yeah, his in Italy was just really strong, especially versus. I'm specifically talking about Astralis. His pathing was very solid. He just knew every moment where to find opportunities to open up for the team. He's definitely an exciting talent. We're yet to see the true limit, partly because some of the they've had some difficult games, have Madlions. So Elyoya has been relied heavily upon very early into his amateur career on this team of Madlions. I'm hopeful that maybe some of the other players will be able to pick up and maybe get to where they were in previous seasons or something else. But Elyoya, so far, performing above expectations for me.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think for me as well, the game that really quite impressed me was obviously his game versus G2. Honestly, that first game of the split, actually, he turned up and looked competitive for 20 minutes. Yes, G2 eventually really turned the screws against them, and yes, there was some real issues in the top side. But Elyoya himself looked really strong individually, if nothing else. Obviously, Yankos had a good game too. Don't get me wrong, but his Nidalee there as well, I believe it was also very impressive.
Yeah. Okay, I do know we I do know we are starting to get short for time, because there's still, so much stuff that I would have loved to talk about, from G2 early games to, I think XL being better than people are making them out to be. But let's take a look at, I think we'll just look at a Friday's schedule and make some predictions. Just the first day of games. So, first game, Madlions against XL. MaskedSwan?
Madlions should be cleaner. They should have figured out some of the kinks. I don't think XL are going to have enough unless Kazi can keep pulling out crazy LS picks.
Oh, cries, yes.
Cries, yeah, sorry.
Cries. Initialise, your thoughts?
I think I'm there with you. I think probably Madlions, but I'm a little afraid that Patrick pops off.
That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Only has to pop off a little.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Then Schalke versus SK. Initialise, I'll throw to you first on that one.
I actually think Schalke will have that one.
Okay. MaskedSwan?
You think Broken Blade's got it this time? You think he's got it? I'm going SK. I'm going to be controversial like I'd love to be. I actually think SK will get this one, and part of that is because we have a Gragas player in the top lane. So just default win, right?
I mean, just to put my thoughts in there as well, I think
Please.
Genax has actually played fairly well. I think a lot of people have rated him quite highly after those first few days. And listening to you guys bicker about a certain Broken Blade leads me to think that it's going to be a bit one-sided in the top lane. So I'll sit on the SK Gaming camp as well on that one. We'll ignore game 3 because you better both be voting for
Astralis.
G2. Yeah, no, God.
Yeah,
Right, we're going to
Astralis
ignore
got
game.
this.
Yeah, look. G2
Yeah.
always. There's always a bogey team, and it's always one of the bottom tier teams for G2. I'm calling it out to be Astralis. No, actually, I do think G2 wins that one. But,
Promise
if you
Q
can
facing
take that clip,
against
if
his former
Oh, yeah.
team.
exactly.
He's
Promise Q has all
ruthless.
the inside strats. That's how it happens.
G2
It's like,
win.
show
obviously.
them Sejuani. Jankos will get PTSD. Free win.
They pick Brawl mid, and then just Jankos just can't play the game anymore.
Oh my God. Right, Misfits Rogue, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as G2 Astralis, just that Misfits, I personally think, are a lot better than Astralis.
Well, okay, right. Okay, I was getting some spam question mark pings in my head there when you were like, "Oh, this is the exact same." I'm like, "This is the team with 3 wins versus the team with 2 wins. These are 2 positive teams."
Yeah,
facing
no.
each other."
Well, hang on. I agree. When you think about it, it's
Yeah,
like
thank you.
you think Rogue is second. I mean, G2 first, whichever order you want, and then Misfits here. But when you think about it in quality of teams, it's like G2 Rogue up here and everyone else down here. I'm sorry, everyone else. Don't take it as a personal insult.
So, I think this is actually probably going to be our game of the week, or
I can
game of
agree
the
on that.
day.
I think it's the one to keep an eye on for sure.
Misfits look really strong. Kobe and Vanda seem like a match made in heaven. I'm so happy that both these players have actually met like a counterpart who just kind of excels in doing exactly what they want to do. There was a lot of questions around them. I'm really loving this team at the moment. But Hansama and Trimby are also doing the exact same. And it's kind of like, well, Vanda did it with Hansama, but now he knows Hansama, how they're going to play. I'm actually going to give advantage Misfits.
Interesting.
Initialize.
I'm going the other way around, but specifically because I think this will be a big test for here at Inverthale.
Sure.
Rogue look very, very composed as a team, and the one time that Misfits kind of got ruffle stomped, put it in elite parlance. Actually was these guys kind of getting a little bit caught out in the side lanes towards that mid game when it's not as solo queue, when some of those ingrained habits as pro players aren't there yet. And I think you're going against Larson and Odawamne, who are 2 of the more veteran and higher caliber laners in the league, with the rest of the team who look very coordinated and very able to use globals and map rotations to catch people out in places where they shouldn't be. And against 2 rookie players, that sounds dangerous, and I suspect, as good as this team will eventually get to be, this will be a matchup that's a bit much for them this early on in the split.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree, that bot lane Cubby Vandy versus Hansama Trimby is going to be
amazing.
I think these are probably two of the best bot lanes that are about, and I'm interested to see them against each other. But you mentioned before how well Hirit did on that Renekton, but playing into someone that you Initialize says is a weak side top laner, Odawamne should be able to do fine into that. And then you're looking at VTO, who did so well, but he's playing into, and I will say this here in front of everyone, the best mid laner in the LEC.
Ooh,
Caps strongly disagrees.
I'm sure he does, and I would disagree as well. But I'm honestly, I've jumped ship. I'm on
Larson's
the Larson boat. Larson looks absolutely phenomenal right now.
I see the arguments. I'll just say I think Caps. I will say Caps is more clutch. True enough. I'll say Caps is more clutch.
Yes.
And that often matters more in when it comes to the really high pressure games.
Yes.
And like the way, and the sort of things like obviously some of those crazy outplays on Akali where like, yes, he didn't get any kills, but gets out of a situation he should just never have gotten out of. It's quite impressive. That said, Larson has a lot more consistency and doesn't die randomly in mid lane of first blood. So I understand.
So essentially what you mean is Larson doesn't play with G2.
Yeah, both Caps and Larson have played 2 TF games, I think. So I'm like, well, their whole performance kind of gets brought down to how good they are at pressing R into getting a goal card on somebody. Not to disrespect.
To be fair, I did
very
see Caps
good.
going through like two rotations of card to get his goal card. So
shocking.
All right,
yeah.
Let's go on to this next one.
Yeah, go on. 2 of these are bottom tier teams, only on 1 win. Vitality versus Fnatic.
Can I say my spicy one? I actually think Vitality were going to take this one from Fnatic. I actually think Fnatic
Is that spicy though?
I think because Vitality already upset Misfits, I think they're going to do it again, and I think they're going to do it today on Friday. I don't think they're going to do it on Saturday. I don't think they're going to beat another bottom team. I think it's actually going to be Vitality beating Fnatic, and it's going to be real awkward when Fnatic are 1-3 going into day number 5.
You're nearly guaranteed an upset on a day.
Exactly.
I thought we agreed that was the Astralis G2 game.
No.
Yeah, that was memeing. Come on, man. Get with the
Okay,
times.
right.
Okay. So I think if Fnatic have taken their learnings from last week, then there is a chance. My problem is I just don't think they're that synchronized yet. I have issues with Whippo's play in champion pool.
Why we work together, Initialise.
Yeah.
I love it. You're on the same
Yeah,
wavelength.
and like as much
Do you
as
guys have a
think,
secret document that you're like sharing info from aside from the main one that we've all written our notes?
yeah, you're just not cool enough to be invited yet, Milky. You know.
Okay.
One day. And the thing is, there is absolutely a world where upset pops off again and gets out of control, and Fnatic have a really easy way to play the game, and they're great at playing from that snowball. They really are. But I haven't liked what I've seen from Selfmade having to defend his losing lanes. And he's done all right about getting himself ahead and getting some kills in the mid game, but I think sometimes he's kind of let his lanes dry a little bit in favor of getting himself ahead. And I understand the decision making, but I'm not sure some of the players have dealt with that as well as they should have on Fnatic.
One good game versus Schalke for Fnatic isn't enough for me to be like, yeah, they can beat Vitality comfortably. That's not good enough.
Whereas I've actually been quite impressed with Skeens and Militz's combos.
Yeah, me too.
I think they've been really dangerous at combo, which I've not seen out of Fnatic yet. That said, it is my bold call, but I think Vitality might have this if they have cleaned up how they want to end game.
I'm gonna go side with Fnatic because I think Fnatic historically start off badly, and I think we've seen that in previous splits.
I agree.
So I'm not surprised, if Fnatic had gone 0-3 on the opening week, it wouldn't have really surprised me. It happens, but I think once they work out what they're doing, and I think the Fnatic Schalke game showed that okay, they can play League of Legends properly. I think Fnatic are now on the uphill climb. Personally,
Fair.
I think it might take another week. Is all I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think there's a few. I think there were more teething problems with this squad than I was expecting, and some of those issues make me a little nervous.
I also think Niski can get banned out, which basically screws Fnatic. Just a quick thing for another segment that we'll come on to later.
Okay, I'll leave that one to you guys.
Okay.
I wonder.
Right. On that note, though, that is the main part of the show done. Initialise, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It has been
being here.
a pleasure to have the superior play-by-play caster up. I'm quoting. I'm air
You
quoting
said it now. I'm gonna clip that. That's me sorted. That's
you can clip it, but it's got the air quotes. You can see that I'm quoting that.
I'll just blank those out. Censor the handouts.
It just be like a black arms just sticking up, just blacked out.
I'll just stick it over some gameplay footage. That's all I need.
All right. Well, jokes aside, Initialise, thank you very much for joining. And yep, if people want to follow Initialise at Initialise, make sure to get on. He does some very, very cool LJL casting alongside MaskedSwan. But yeah, our next segment is MaskedSwan. Do you want to introduce this next segment because it's your creation?
Absolutely. Let's go over to the new segment of the Meta Report. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Meta Report. I'm MaskedSwan, joined by Milky Cereal, and it's time for us to think like analysts and to talk about the League of Legends meta.
And since this is the eLECtric recap, MaskedSwan, no talking about the LJL, okay?
Yeah, but Milky, while we care about the LEC and I'm particularly fond of the LJL, we need to know what's happening in our home metagame, but also the world's metagame, and more specifically, the other major regions.
Other major regions, so we're not going to talk about NA then, right?
They might have got a few imports from us. They might be becoming a bit more of a major region. They did get perks buff, so yeah, NA sadly counts.
There are perks in NA.
There are perks in NA. Let's start off, though, with how the LEC meta started out with our 100% presence champions. Olaf, Pantheon, Talia, and Kai'Sa all had 100% presence during week 1 of the LEC. However, Kai'Sa had a surprisingly low win rate of only 36%.
Oh, Kai'Sa has a low win rate. But I think we need to identify the problem in this, and that's Kobe's Vayne, right?
Of
Yeah.
course, that Vayne schooled everybody. It only makes sense. If Kobe had played Kai'Sa, we would have got another win, and it'd be at like 40-something%, right?
Quick maths.
That's quick maths. But we can't be worried. We are one of the best regions. Remember, Milky? 2019 G2. We can still be on top. We've got a
0-3.
fair amount to go with this, right?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Let's, however, go straight over to the top lane meta. We had 12 champions picked in the first week of the meta. Gragas and Camille had an 87% win rate, and the Fat Man not having the greatest showing, only having a 29 win rate. Camille only going 1-1, but she did get banned 11 times, which is honestly surprisingly high. Renekton had an 80% win rate and ended up owing 2-5, but then Ornn and Aatrox, the picks which are far less common and aren't being banned at all, both have an 100% win rate. And when you compare that to the rest of the top lane meta in the world, Renekton is number 1, with Camille being number 2, but they're getting banned far less compared to us. It's almost a 1-to-3 comparison. It's kind of alarming how high we're banning some of these champions. Gragas, by the way, nowhere near in the presence, only 40%. And well, I didn't even mention him in EU. We're not playing him really here.
No, we don't want no short characters over here in EU. But in the jungle, we've got 9 champions picked in total in the LEC, and the biggest ones are Olaf, Pantheon, and Taliyah. But when you kind of compare that to the rest of the world, we're not really seeing as much of the Graves or even the Nidalee.
No, we're really not. That's just a complete disparity between the two regions. Well, two worlds meta games? But let's just think of it. EU better than all. We've got some great junglers, and we're obviously just going to have great win rates. Taking us over to the mid lane, however, Twisted Fate, 93% presence. He's been picked 7 times, banned 7 times, somehow got missed in a game. Don't know how that happened, but he has got a 100% win rate with G2 Rogue picking up G2 picking up a win, Rogue picking up 2 wins, Madlions, Fnatic, and Astralis all picking up wins on this champion. He just seems to be free low at the moment, Milky.
Yeah, I love Twisted Fate, dashing all around. Maybe that's how he got missed. He was in the middle of a Destiny. People were looking like, where's the Twisted Fate to lock in? And he just wasn't there. He was over in a side lane. So Twisted Fate, great high priority. But we're not seeing the likes of the Syndra as much as we are across the rest of the world.
Oh, Syndra is definitely being the most picked champion when it comes to presence, or at least comparable to Twisted Fate with a 64% presence rate. She's getting a huge amount of bans and picks, pretty even. I think part of the reason is just a lot of mid laners and their compositions are falling far more into Orianna and Zoe territory. We are also seeing a few people play more of their comfort picks in the first few weeks at the moment in the LEC, so I expect that we'll see a few more Syndra picks coming in the next coming weeks.
Yeah. And in the bot lane, we're seeing, of course, the Kai'Sa, we talked about it before, that super high priority, 100% presence, but we're also seeing the Aphelios, the Xayah, the Samira, the Jhin as well coming through. Reckless picking up 2 wins on it this weekend. But one champion that we're not seeing, neither in the bot lane or even in the mid lane, is the Lucian.
Yeah, Lucian's in a very different place in the LEC. I can't quite understand why we've got such a disparity between the rest of the world. That might just be coming down to composition, player comfort as well. It's early days. We've only had a few games over in the LEC, so I, again, expect, similar to Syndra, we will start seeing a lot more Lucian, unless we see maybe a specific champion like Xayah becoming far more prevalent, just because that's what the AD carries like to see and really like to play. However, with every great carry, Milky, you know this one, there's a great support. Wouldn't you agree?
The very best of supports. Absolute best. And because we're in a meta where ADCs being able to move about a lot is so huge, and hence why we're seeing the Kai'Sa high up there. It makes sense that you need a support that can help you move around. Something that can give you movement speed, dash around, maybe lock people down, like a Yuumi.
What? You mean like a Thresh, a Louster, and a Leona, which have the 3 highest presence in the world, 3 highest presence in the EU, and they have great win rates, except for Leona,
But
who even
Yumi's
then she's
cute.
just picking. Yumi is a kitty, and she might like her fishy for her dishy, but she can get Thresh hooked and murdered, as it would be.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, let's wait until Yumi doesn't get murdered. I don't like seeing dead kitties on the map. Unless they're Rengars. Then kill them.
Okay, let's move on to some stats from around the world you probably didn't know. Milky, did you know that the highest win rate champions, when paired together in the world at the moment in competitive games, is Talia and Leona with an 82% win rate across 22 games? Did you know that?
I did, but only for one reason here, MaskedSwan.
Ah, why was that?
Because you wrote it on the notes that's right in front of me.
Well, did you also know, before I had written the note, before you had read it, that Kaiser and Gragas have the second highest at a 78 win rate across 23 games?
I did not know that. No, I didn't know that one, actually.
Okay, well, at least you didn't know that one. I'm good about this one. The champions which have the highest synergy among a bunch of other champions is Leona, Kaiser, and Renekton have the best synergies and top win rates. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Renekton, Kaiser, and Leona in the same comp with the Talia is actually a really good composition to have.
I see that. I see that. You know, you can dash around with your Weaver's Wall. Renekton locks people down. Seismic Shove. Kaboom! Easy as that.
Solar flare into anything, and with Predator you can just get everywhere. The other champion that is also there is Orianna, who at the very bottom of that list perfectly reflects into the rest of it. So you could actually have a really great team, and the stats would just back you up with that. However, Milky, that's the end, really, for our meta report. So I think it's about time that we close out everything here.
It is. Thank you guys very much for tuning in to the very end of the show. We will be back next week with another episode of the eLECtric recap, as we will take a look at the results of week 2. I'm sure G2 and Rogue will both be 5-0, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll be looking forward to week 3's matches as well. So, until next time, stay tilt-proof on the Rift, and good night.